Bhuto. The word Bhuta, I think in Malay language also connected to blindness. Here the Buddha used Andhabhuta. Whole world means human being. Human beings are blind. Andhabhuta. This he has mentioned on many occasions, not only once. I think you have heard, after gaining his enlightenment, he wanted to survey the mentality or the understanding capacity of human beings. So according to his observation, he found out their minds were deluded, clouded, misled. At the same time, maintain a lot of wrong belief, concept and idea about the life and the world and religion and truth. Then he thought whether it is advisable for him to reveal what he gained as enlightenment, whether people can understand. Am I not going to waste my time? After working for a long period to gain this enlightenment, but after gaining it, he had this idea whether the people will be benefited. Because earlier he never had that power to read others' minds. When he was thinking in this way, it is mentioned in our religious book. When I say it is mentioned in our religious book, that means I do not fully agree, but it is mentioned in our religious book. What is that? When he was thinking, the Mahabrahma, the Brahma, the Supreme God, appeared. Having known what he was thinking and observing, the Brahma invited him to preach the Dhamma. He said, although many people are blindfolded, there may be few at least who can understand the Dhamma that you are going to preach. Then the book says, just because of this invitation, request, the Buddha decided to preach or reveal the truth. My argument is this: who knows better, the Buddha or Brahma? We always say Devas and Brahmas are not enlightened. So the Buddha can understand better than Brahma. Whether people can understand or not. Therefore it is not necessary for him to depend on Brahma, to listen to him. This is the nature of religions. Every religion. What is that? why they wanted to bring Brahma into this picture. Because at that time in India, Brahma is their god. They worship Brahma. When the public come to know that the Brahma came and invited the Buddha to preach, then they will get ready to listen. You understand the psychological interpretation? This is the nature of religion. Otherwise people are not ready to listen. Then, after spending for 7 weeks in different places, he wanted to go and preach. When he was going, because he had to travel a long distance, I think nearly 300 miles from Buddha Gaya to Benares, Sarnath. No helicopters at this time. He did not use even bullock cart. He had to walk and no proper roads. Purposely he went to that area, Sarnath, because of his former friends, ascetics, who supported him at the beginning, deserted him and had gone somewhere else. Why they have deserted him? When he changed his ascetic way of life. Because he knew by torturing this body, by suffering, I won't be able to gain the enlightenment. So he was misguided by some other religious leaders. So he changed his way of life into, is called Majjhima Patipada, middle path, very liberal, normal way of life. So when he changed his life to a normal way of life, those ascetics got fed up with it. So they woke up. Then he took the food. For 6 years he never had proper food. The lady Sujata prepared milk rice. So he took this food. Then crossed the Neranjara river after having a nice bath. Then seated under the Bodhi tree, then started his meditation that he had been practicing and continued. Finally gained enlightenment. Then what is this enlightenment? But still many people cannot understand. It is not the knowledge. There are 5 words used by the Buddha in the first sermon, Dhammacakka. Now, Chakkhum udapadi, Jnanam udapadi, Panya udapadi, Vidya udapadi, Aloko udapadi. These 5 things arose, appeared in my mind. Formerly, I never had these 5 things. Chakkhum means eyes. Chakkhum udapadi, in English simply we say, we got divine eyes. There is no another word. Divine eyes means can see things very clearly, what he could not see earlier. Anything. The vision is very clear, and the mind can penetrate into the vision and the object and analyze to understand what it is. In our case, we only take the outlook, superficial value, or the face value, but we do not know how to penetrate and analyze and understand what it is. This is the difference between normal way of vision and after gaining this enlightenment, how they look at the things. Jnanam udapad, realization. Realization means not mere understanding. Now we understand things, but our understanding will be going on changing from time to time according to our knowledge and experience and maturity. Our understanding changes. When we were small children, we had some sort of understanding. Now you can understand how much our understanding has been changing, still changing. We have not stopped that. This is the nature of our understanding. That means we have not come to a final conclusion, decision, to understand that it is like this to say, but only superficial value, knowledge we use. Later we will come to know the knowledge, the understanding that we had earlier was wrong. But in the case of the Buddha, the realization means analytical interpretation of anything that which exists, whether it is matter or energies or cosmic energies or living beings. He realized who they are and what they are. But in our case, we cannot analyze in that way because we have no that analytical psychic development in our mind. Panya udapad. Prajna means extraordinary characteristic in his mind that he had, or we introduce this as supreme wisdom, not ordinary wisdom. We too have wisdom, but our wisdom is unreliable sometimes. So he had supreme, unchangeable, absolute or ultimate truth or wisdom. That is called Panya Udapad. Vidya Udapad. The word Vidya or Vidya in Pali and Sanskrit languages, today they interpret as scientific knowledge. So science in Sanskrit and Pali they say Vidya. Scientific knowledge is not mere concept, not mere belief. What they have discovered according to their experiment, not by depending on religions or God or belief, experiments. So they discovered certain things that others could not realize for thousands of years from the very beginning of the human scientific discoveries. So there will be many more new discoveries. But still we are maintaining only our imagination for that. I can give a very simple example. When we were small children, when you saw the rainbow, then we asked, what is that? Then our parents and elders say, this is the vessels dropped by the God to take water from here. Because they experience the rain after rainbow. Through this experience, they have created that imagination, and they also have no idea why there are different colors. Many of our beliefs are exactly like this, because we do not know how to analyze and understand. But scientists have discovered. Isaac Newton, when he was sitting under the apple tree, apple dropped. Then he started to think, why this apple dropped down instead of going up? He has never seen any fruits going up. Why always come down? There must be a reason. If we were asked why these things come down, no, of course it must come down, that's all. It cannot go up, but we do not know the reason to say why. Then he discovered there is something that people never realize, such as gravity, to pull. And also they realize you go up and up and up to certain extent, and that gravity is no more there. If you carry a huge stone, like Batuke's stone, and release there, it will float, cannot drop here, because no gravity. This kind of knowledge we never had earlier. And theory of evolution is covered by Charles Darwin. People have created religious mythologies. How changes take place in different forms of existence. They thought a God appeared by taking different incarnations from time to time. So the continuity of these incarnations started from amoeba in the water, then started all these incarnations of God. Because they had no scientific knowledge to understand how the matters or the elements or energies evolve, cannot stand without change. Scientists realize this. So changes must take place, otherwise no existence. That is how he realized the evolution changes. But when you compare these discoveries with the Buddha's enlightenment, you can see the Buddha has gone beyond their limit. That's why people could not understand. A British scholar, Julius Huxley, says Buddhism starts where science ended. When scientists ended their discoveries, Buddhism starts from there. He is right. Now let us take evolution, theory of evolution of Darwin. His discovery is only one-way traffic. He realized only the evolutions of elements, elemental evolution. He knew only that much, but he had no idea of the mental evolution. With the elements, the mind also going on changing. That is why different forms of life come into existence. So the Buddha has explained this. Mind and matter, mind and energy, mind and matter must go together. They both going on evolving, changing. Then changes must take place, otherwise no existence. This is scientific discovery. When the Buddha mentioned this anicca, dukkha, anatta, people did not take so seriously. He says, sabbe sankhara anicca. All those component things, component means combinations of elements and energy, component. Sabbe sankhara, anicca. Impermanent, change. Cannot stand, cannot stay without change. Sabbe sankhara dukkha. Scientists could not catch this. All these component things, when combined together, create friction, clashes, or the calamities, imbalance, disagreement, then create a chaotic situation. That is called dukkha. We say dukkha, suffering, unsatisfactoriness. When changes take place, we create unsatisfactoriness. So scientists could not go further like this. That is why the Buddha's enlightenment we introduce as a scientific, analytical knowledge which has gone beyond the scientific analysis and discovery. Chakkhum udupadi, jnanam udupadi, panya udupadi, vidya udupadi. Aloko udupadi. Brightness. Brightness arose. Formerly he never had that brightness in his mind, because there were so many dark clouds in the mind. Wrong ideas, wrong beliefs, misconceptions, and evil thoughts. There is no brightness. Now in our mind, definitely there is no brightness. 100% sure. There is no brightness in our mind. How many kinds of dark clouds are moving around the mind, like this. We cannot count. The Buddha has mentioned 52 names. Some are good, some are bad. 52. But the bad ones are dangerous, such as our illusion, ignorance, hallucinations, imaginations. These are very dangerous things. We make mistake because of these. Then arise craving, selfishness, discrimination, hostility, enmity, then anger, jealousy, grudge, ill will. See, all these things are there in our mind. All are dark clouds. That is why always we have sour face or low face. If those dark clouds are no more in our mind, always cheerfulness, happiness, serenity, pleasantness. Very seldom we can see very pleasant looking face. Always they come to us with sour face, with crying and worrying and lamenting and complaining and accusing and blaming. Then after talking for about 10 to 15 minutes, then slowly reduce and reduce and reduce and reduce. Then some sort of cheerfulness and can laugh also. This is my experience. Even today also I had. It had taken nearly 1 hour for me to take out of the stop crying, a young girl who come and start to grumble and accuse and blame and curse. A fight between daughter and the mother. So, after that, she started to laugh. Then immediately she wrote a letter to her mother. Mother, I am here in the temple now. I came here with very heavy heart, with lot of what you call worries and disturbances, unhappiness, but now I am very released and very cheerful, very happy. All my worries I have forgotten because I met with the Reverend. He has enlightened me and very grateful to. Then she showed me the letter. Because we must know how to talk. Just as a doctor who diagnoses the case, sometimes we must have special sympathy and pity on them. Sometimes we have to stand very firmly, become very rough and tough. Otherwise cannot change their mind. It depends on their mentality. Then they will obey. They will listen. So, the mind, so our minds are very unreliable, changeable. How clever we are, or how good we are today, how religious we are, but still minds are unreliable, very uncertain. That means I cannot trust my own mind, that I never change my mind. Because circumstances change the mind. Now I am very good, because nobody to disturb me. I am very good, nobody to tempt me. Then either temptation or irritation appears. I have no controlling power. That means still not well trained, not tamed properly. Although we could manage to control or to suppress, reduce. Now you can see what is happening all over the world. Some of them whom we accepted as Arahantas and holy people, and later how changes have taken place. This is the uncertainty of the day. So this situation remains in our minds until we attain the higher stage of sainthood, Arahant. Of course, on the first stage, Sotapanna, they go on reducing. Perfection completely takes place only after attaining that stage. That is why the Buddha says, Sabbe Puthujjana Ummattaka. Ummattaka means man. Those who have not attained the Arahanta stage are mad people. We are all mad people. It is not a joke. That means our sense of reasoning, our understanding, and our sympathy, our cooperation, our unity, all these things are not functioning. But certain other evil thought, wicked thought, cunning thought, selfish ideas are boiling in the mind. Then we cannot maintain the normal way of thinking. That is why the Buddha says we are mad. We are crazy. We behave like animals or devils or ghosts. Our inhuman attitude can be seen when the mind is upset. That means mad. We have to admit. So, brightness appeared in the mind, the Buddha says. Now, none of those evil thoughts exist in the Buddha's mind. Completely cleansed, eradicated, uprooted. We can reduce, suppress, but the roots remain, again grow. Now our way of suppressing evil thought through meditation is like this. Now you take one big basin and cover one area with green grass. Keep there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Go and open, see what happened to the green grass, turn into white color. No more green grass, because no sunlight. So the time that we spend for our meditation is exactly like that. So after 2-3 weeks you remove that basin and wait 1 or 2 weeks, the grass again turns into green color. All our minds again go back to the normal way of life. So that temporarily we can maintain some sort of calmness, relaxation, reduce our tension through this kind of meditation. But the roots of all the evil thoughts are there inside. When you cut the grass or lalan, it's very nice, very clean. After a few weeks' time, you can see how they grow again. The roots are there. So our minds are also exactly like this. So in the case of the Buddha, he has uprooted everything, but that is not the task that he has done within one lifetime. You know how many, how numerous, enormous, countless previous births, one after the other, reducing, and completely he could manage to uproot everything in the final birth. Then he uttered this word. Now in my mind, Jakkhum udupadi, Jnanam udupadi, Panya udupadi, Vidya udupadi, Aloka udupadi, brightness. That is called enlightenment. It is not knowledge, it is not mere wisdom, it is not mere understanding. When the mind is developed up to that stage, we gain enlightenment. We also can gain the same if we prepare for that. Here, we wanted to go and preach those 5 friends who got fed up with him. On the way, he met so many people. Because this is an extraordinary human being. His personality, his features, complexion, serenity, very pleasing to the eyes and soothing. So, people ask, who are you? Where are you going? What are you doing? And so many questions. Then he says, Dhamma chakkang pavattetum gacchami kasinang puram. Andabhutasmin lokasmin amata dundubin, I forgot the other word. Andabhutasmin lokasmin amata dundubin, I explained. Dhamma chakkam pavattetum, to preach the dharma, to wheel of the law. Dhamma chakra, wheel of the law. That means the nature of the world. Wheel of the law. In simple language, we can say natural phenomenon. That is dharma. Dharma is natural phenomenon. Dhamma chakkam pavattetum, to deliver this wheel of the law. Gacchami Kasinam Puram. Those days, Benares was known as Kasi. Today also people use Kasi. I am going to Kasi town. Gacchami Kasinam Puram. Then he says, Andabhutasmin lokas. I am going to be the drum, Amata Dunduvin. I am going to beat the drum of Amata, immortality. Immortality means how to stop the death. Because birth and death and birth and death and birth and death create all these problems. So I am going to preach, tell people how to stop this death, that is called amata, immortality. So he said, Andabhutasmin lokasmin, I am going to reveal this to those who are blind, blindfolded. That is how he started his mission, by knowing that it is very difficult for people to understand the truth. We can understand so many things in this world, but not the truth. Very difficult to understand the truth. We create our own concept, our own belief, our own imagination, but the truth is not there. When the truth is revealed, people feel very unhappy because it is not up to their taste, not in their favor. But they want some sort of truth that they can satisfy. This is the problem. Now other religions says, yes, we can help you to go somewhere where you can lead everlasting life, eternal life. Then that truth is very tasty for you. You like it very much. What you need is to exist forever. But you never analyze, you never think whether it is possible or not. You accept it. But the Buddha's way of teaching is different. He never said, I can show you the path, or I can send you to somewhere where you can live or exist eternal life. To him, if life or whatever it may be, any name that we give, any substance, entity, exists, that existence again subject to decay and change. Whether it is in heaven or Brahma or any part of the world. This is the universal law, nature. It exists. In that existence you can see changes or decay and addition. What the Buddha says, I am going to teach you how to stop your death. But he never used the word send you to eternal heaven or eternal nirvana. We say nirvana is eternal, yes, because there is nobody to exist in nirvana. Nirvana is the end of our journey. When we have completed our journey, now we are pilgrims, staying here for a short period, for a few years. After that, we build a house and we carry this house here and there as busybodies running here and there. And when this house started to decay, then it will collapse. And that is called death. When the house collapsed, the life continue the journey, continue the pilgrimage. That pilgrimage never stop, because ingredients, energies are there to continue. What are the energies or ingredients? Craving for existence, craving for pleasure, attachment, karma formation, karmic action. all are active. Then how to stop? The engine is still working. Then continue. After that, build another one, another house. Then exist there for certain period. When that one also starts to decay and decay and decay and collapse, again continue the journey. Then start to build another one. That is what we are doing. When the house is started to decay, we worry, we suffer. That is why the Buddha said, existence creates suffering. Combinations of these elements and energies molded, shape up the formations of this. Then we develop our craving, attachment towards that formation.
That concept of mind, develop attachment. This is the truth. But people don't like this kind of truth. Now if we suffer, if we worry, if we cry because of this, when we are sick, we worry thinking we are going to die. Because I, mine, our concept create that suffering. When an Arahantas or Buddhas are sick, when they are going to die, they never have such feeling. Because they never claim, this is my body, this is our body. They have eradicated that craving. So their minds are free. So as long as we maintain this concept, this belief, this mental attitude, we cannot stop our journey. Whether we believe or not believe is not important. Continue. Then, having seen or experienced uncertainty, unpleasant situation, the sufferings and unsatisfactoriness, problems, disturbances, then start to think, why not reduce these ingredients which condition, which create or which support our journey through understanding. Then reduce and reduce and reduce. One day can stop that journey. And after that, nobody to suffer, nobody to worry, nobody to cry, nobody to fight. Free. This is the way how the Buddha has introduced. But because of our craving, many people don't like this. Whether it is true or not, they want to remain somewhere without changing. To the Buddha, it is like a small children's way of thinking. So we are still thinking like small children, not as mature to understand it. When we analyze our mentality, our behavior, our character, we are not ready to admit our own wickedness or selfishness or weaknesses because we have very strong egoism. Always try to fight and justify that I am right. I am right, you are wrong. This is our attitude. I know very well I am the culprit, but I argue. I try to justify, I am right, you are wrong. That is why the Buddha says we are men. You can understand that. If we are normal, we cannot say like that. Here, Anda Bhuto, I am Loko. So now we can understand. Sanuketha Vipassana. Only very few. Few are those who clearly see. So how many people can see things as they are, not as they appear? Vast difference. Rainbow, we see as it appears. Nice colors, different colors. Then we create our imagination, having seen that one. So we see as it appears. But when you use our analytical knowledge or scientific knowledge to understand what it is, then they analyze. It is round, like because of the earth, and sunlight, and go to the water, then light and water, which are different colors, even in the glass case also we can see. That is called as they are, not as they appear. And now this world, we do not know how to see, look at the world as they are, but as they appear. We do not know how to look at our life or the body as it is, but as it appears, look like. The changes are going on every minute, every second, changing. We do not know. We try our best by applying all sort of gadgets here and there to maintain this, not to change, maintain this energy. But how long can we maintain that energy? But we never look at that. People worry, what a pity, we are going old now. That is why the Buddha says, when these 5 elements all together combined together, mental energy, we develop attachment, and that attachment creates worries, suffering. We claim this is mine. This is not mine. Because I have no authority, I have no controlling power. I cannot change anything. I don't like sicknesses, but can I stop sicknesses? I don't like changes, can I stop changes? I don't like to be an old man, can I stop that? Even as an old man, I like to stay without dying, can I stop that? This is our mentality. That is why we suffer and worry. So the Buddha has given 5 items for us to contemplate every day. Then we can get rid of this imagination, the hallucination, crazy mental attitude. 5 things. Not just to recite, but to contemplate, to think, to analyze, to understand. What are those 5? Vyādi dhammo, jara dhammo, marana dhammo, kammasa komi, sabbehi mepe manate nanabhavo vinabhavo. These 5. Very useful. If we can develop our understanding by concentrating on these 5 items. After that, worries or fear never appear in the mind. Vyādi dhammomi vyādhin anatitoti abhinnam paccayati. I have to think. I have not gone beyond, or I am not free from sicknesses. Any time, any kind of sickness can appear. This is the nature of the combinations of elements and elements. So no one can stop it. Concentrate on that. When sicknesses come to you, then you have already trained your mind. Given this information earlier, sicknesses will come. Now when they come, you don't worry. You knew. Jara dhammomi jarang anatitoti abhinnam paccayati. I have not gone beyond my old age or decay. That means I am not free from old age and decay. I am facing this in my day-to-day life. When the noticeable indications appear, then you don't worry because you knew that earlier. You have trained your mind. One day you have to face it, not one day. Slowly, to face it, it is natural. You cannot go against the needs. Marana dhammomi maranam anatitoti abhinnam paccayakitattva. I have not gone beyond the death, not free from it. I have to face it. If come into existence, that will be ended, otherwise no existence. Existing means ending of another. Ending means existence of another. Relativity. Albert Einstein, see how close they are to the moon. Relativity. Dependent upon. One depends on another. If there is no death, there is no birth. If there is no birth, there is no death. Interrelated. When we understand in this way, analyze in this way, we can reduce our tension and worry, our imagination. Then, kammasakomi kammadayado kammayoni kammabandhu kammapatika. Karma, my own karma is the only friend who supports. Nobody else can support me for my life. Whatever actions I have done, committed as karma, good one or bad one, good karma support for me to exist again, to lead a normal life without too much of suffering. Bad karma support me to be born in certain unfortunate state of existence where they lead a miserable life. Nobody else is responsible. You cannot blame anybody in this world for that. So I am responsible for my life and you are responsible for your life. I cannot change your life and you cannot change my life. But I can give you some ideas and advices for how to change. This is the way of Buddha. So karma is the only support. Kammam satte vibhajati adidam hina panika. All those discriminations, differences that exist in this world are due to our karmas, action. Why different human beings experience or lead different way of life? Pleasurable or miserable or fortunate or unfortunate? Why? Our own karma. Sabbehi me piyehi manapehi nana bhavo vina bhavo. This is another person. One day I had to separate. I had to depart from all my beloved ones and things that I love so much. It is true. My husband, my wife, my children, my jewelry, my money, my property, my house, my name, my titles, all those titles. One day, I have to separate from all this. I cannot carry any of these. Now I have more than 10 to 12 titles. So I cannot carry any of these titles after my death to the next world. All these titles remain here. So, this understanding, these 5 things, all our beloved ones. Then there is an argument. In that case, we should not develop our love, affection and attachment towards our wives and husbands and children. No, there is no such teaching in Buddhism. The Buddha has very clearly mentioned duties of a husband, duties of a wife, duties of parents, duties of children and relatives and friends, to develop the affections, understanding, goodwill, friendship. Yes. To lead a worldly life, they are very important. But when we develop your attachment and craving and love, this idea also must be in your mind. What is that? One day we have to separate. With that understanding, you have to fulfill all your duties and obligations, but separation is clear. No argument about it. Therefore don't cry when separation comes. So Buddha has given these 5 things for you to think again and again and into your day-to-day life. After that it becomes very common. There is nothing to take seriously. This is the nature of the Buddha's truth. This is truth. These are the truths he realized through his enlightenment. So, that is why he said, I am going to beat the drum of the immortality for people to understand that one day they can stop their suffering of death and all the others followed. After death, then the birth again. It remains as worldly people. So when you stop that, after attaining sainthood, no more. Nobody to worry, nobody to suffer. Then he says, Sakunto Jala Mutto, the birds, those who catch birds by throwing net, not net, but yes, they spray to catch fish and birds, only 1 or 2 get the chance to escape. All the others will be caught. They cannot escape. Sakunto Jala Mutto. Appo Sabdaya Gaccati. Appo means very, very few. Sabda means Swarga. Swarga means where people experience happiness, peace, and very pleasant way of life, free from many kinds of suffering, although there are certain degrees. That is called Sabda or Sarga. Very few among these human beings, just like few birds get the chance to escape from that net, very few among these human beings who get the chance to go and experience that bliss and happiness and peace and satisfaction in their life. All the others remain in these great oceans of samsara by facing birth and death and sickness and old age and crying and worrying and fighting and quarreling. Big battle. There is no end to this battle. Forever we have to fight. Forever we have to cry. Forever we have to quarrel. No end. This is the nature of worldly life. If you try to lead your life without crying, without worrying, without lamenting, in the worldly society, your way of life is very funny. Others are not ready to accommodate you. Because this is the nature of worldly life. Therefore, you have to develop this very wisely, without becoming a nuisance, mockery in the eyes of others. Example, we catch wild birds, keep in a cage for a few years. After that, we carry this bird and release to jungle. Now this bird completely lost their wildlife, used to human life here, human environment, and do not know how to survive there. Not only that, their own kind, the other birds, come and attack and kill. One day, you might have heard the name of Reverend Sumangalo, who lived in Penang, an American who started Buddhist youth activities in this country, who died in the 1960s. They were having a Sunday school. 100 students every Sunday morning come to Penang Buddhist Association. And there was a very tamed monkey. Children go and play with this monkey. And the monkey get angry, bites. And this becomes a nuisance to this place. So this Reverend thought, in Penang Hill, there are a lot of monkeys. He thought to carry this monkey and release so that he can join with the others. So he himself carried this monkey and released. He told me, within few minutes, when big gangs of monkeys came and attacked and he could not find out even small piece of that monkey, turned into pieces. Because these monkeys are strangers to them. They are not ready to accommodate. They regard this monkey as an enemy, associated with human beings, human way of life, environment, no wildlife. So I am giving you this advice. I mentioned this on many occasions also. At once, if you try to be too religious, your life becomes nuisance to others. Remember this. Your family members, your relatives, your friends, real nuisance. Example, now one of you can say, I am a vegetarian. So in future you cannot cook fish or meat here in this house, but all the others like to eat. And your Buddhism, your religion becomes nuisance to all the others. That's why I told you, don't try to jump at once to be too religious. You have to adjust your religious way of life without creating misunderstanding or nuisance or disturbances to others. So when you are living in the society, in a world, by leading a worldly life, you have to adjust by step by step, going on reducing, developing certain things. The Buddha had to spend such a long period to gain enlightenment or to become a holy religious teacher because of the difficulty of worldly life. It is a gradual development, step by step. So what we need is our understanding. When we do certain bad things, we should not try to justify, to tell others there's nothing wrong. That is the wrong thing. We mislead others. When you do bad thing, if everybody knows it is bad, you should not say, there's nothing wrong. You admit, yes, I know it is wrong. I try my best. I may repeat, but again I will try. Then nobody blame you and you never mislead anything. Example, you want to drink every day, just to enjoy. Then others, your family members or your friends, say you are a good Buddhist, it's not nice for you to drink every day. Like this, what is wrong? There is nothing wrong. That is my business, we have nothing to do. That type of justification. So whenever we do certain bad things, we have to admit, I know it is wrong. The Buddha, how many times during his previous birth he has committed my precept? This is the nature of worldly life. In the process of his spiritual way of life, since he was in a worldly life, associating with worldly people, he had to, under certain circumstances, to violate. Then he had explained, rebirth has taken place as animals. There are many Jataka stories where he has mentioned he was born as a snake, a monkey, an elephant, a peacock, a squirrel, a fish, and again come back. Because he has done certain mistakes. So in our case also, we make mistakes. But we must try to understand that it is wrong. Then people can understand, if we know it is wrong, why do you want to do that? This is our habit, this is our nature. We have no courage. We have not strengthened our mental energy to stop it. But take time, go slowly. Then it is practical. Easy to practice, to live a religious life without becoming nuisance to others and also creating an inconvenience and misunderstanding. 9:30. So I have completed already. Right. Sharing the light. Inna punya hamina upadaya unukara acari utaraja mata pita yaman suryo candi maharaja gunantana Bhagavan.